So, we've got a number 1 deluxe meal. Is there anything else I can get you?
Yeah, I'd also like a good night's sleep. Maybe something like the I didn't struggle all night with my uncomfortable CPAP mask.
Sir, I think what you're looking for is Inspire. It's an implant that works inside your body to treat sleep apnea without a CPAP.
Come on!
He sounds hangry. Inspire. Sleep apnea innovation. Inspire is not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you. And review important safety information at inspiresleep.com.
This podcast of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs is sponsored by AAA Heating and Air.
The premier HVAC company in the Midlands is growing. Are you a top HVAC technician?
AAA Heating and Air is looking for dedicated applicants to fill their fast-growing service department with top-notch HVAC technicians.
If you're the best, then they want you. If you're ready to stop working and start a career, you can earn up to $100,000 plus a year at AAA Heating and Air.
Quality candidates will have at least 2 years experience and a good driving record. Benefits include top industry salaries, commission on service and unit sales, set call limits, company-provided take-home vehicle and gas card, company-provided cell phone and tablet, health, dental, and vision benefits, 401k retirement plan with company match, and scaled PTO based on length of service.
Contact Roy and Dana Finley at 803-677-1500 or check out their job postings on Facebook or ZipRecruiter.
AAA Air when you need us. AAA Heating and Air.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, founded by firemen with Chris Clark.
The 2007 South Carolina class was, at that time, 6th in the country and 4th in the SEC, which is amazing.
Wes Mitchell.
You know, I think if you're South Carolina, you're aiming to at least be at 50%. Then in theory, you're adding talent, you're getting better, you're putting yourself in a position to compete.
And Tyler Head.
It's been a great week for South Carolina. On the recruiting front, still certainly plenty to talk about.
On the home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
And welcome into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. Here at 107.5 The Game, Tyler, West, and Chris along with you on this Wednesday morning. Almost messed up your names there. Kind of tried to combine them. It's a hard one. You know, I do so many shows on here. It's amazing that I get the names right sometimes.
I will give you credit.
Yes. Anyway, it is Wednesday morning. I got to ask, how much of the All-Star game did both of you take in last night?
I didn't get to watch as much as I wanted. Had some other stuff going on, but I did catch, I don't know, maybe the final 3 innings or so. I was honestly wishing upon a star that we would get the home run derby tiebreaker.
Yeah.
I didn't honestly even realize that was a thing. Right. I know it's new, but they were talking about it during the broadcast, obviously, and they were like, hey, so we're going to have either the first NL win in forever, the first walk-off in forever, or the first ever home run derby tiebreaker. So that would have been fun.
Yeah, and, you know, with an all-star game, you have the opportunity to do those kind of neat things. Maybe we'll get it next year. I thought it was weird the entire game was played in daylight because they were out in Seattle, that it, like, you just had some heavy shadows by the end of the game. But, like, the all-star game, like, it feel like the whole thing should be under the lights and, you know, lights gleaming off helmets and bats, stuff like that. And we didn't really get that, which was kind of bizarre to me.
This kind of bothers you. You said this about the home run derby.
I did. Dude, I don't know what it is about that.
Daytime bothers you.
It's just watching it in the daytime feels so weird.
It doesn't feel prime time-ish.
Exactly. It's like, it's like a mid-afternoon game or something.
The thing that bothered me, and I watched probably 1 to 2 innings, like in total, cumulative, I don't like the jerseys.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, I'm in agreement.
You were going to say
Is that like old man yells at cloud?
No. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Because that's new too, right? Like
it
traditionally, you have your team's jersey.
Yes.
Which is really cool because it's kind of unique.
It is, because baseball's the one sport that can really do that for their all-star game, because in football, you have to all be wearing the same thing, so you're not getting confused on who you're throwing to. Similar with hockey and basketball. Like, baseball is one of those sports where you can have guys wearing, you know, at that point, 18 different uniforms out on the field at one time, but unfortunately, we just got these generic, and I think Ryan McGee referred to what the NL players wearing was church pants, because it kind of looked like that. It was like black, and it had like the team emblem on the top of it. Not a fan of the jerseys.
Yeah, I think we're actually all of America is in agreement. on that.
The other two, I have two other thoughts, surface level thoughts on the game. So we're still sad about Freddie Freeman after, seeing him mic'd up a little bit. Seeing him, Acuna and Freeman both gave one a ride early in the game, back to back. We missed that. We missed the lineup with Acuna and Freddie Freeman in it. We're happy about Matt Olson. Do we all agree on all these points?
I agree.
Yeah, we're still sad about Freddie though. And another cool, the probably the biggest portion of the game that I watched at one time. You had, I believe this order is correct. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. I think we saw Matt Olson get a hit. Then Austin Riley come back from 2 strikes down. He got a hit, and then eventually Albies comes up, and I think Albies got out somehow. But it just illustrated like the Braves' presence for the NL All-Stars. They have some absolute dudes.
Absolutely.
On that team.
Yeah, they were like half the team.
It's like half the team,
they were. Basically.
So that was pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, it was fun. Showcase the stars. I like the All-Star game because you get a glimpse of some of the guys you just don't usually watch.
Sure.
And I thought it was a good showcase for Seattle and some of the young stars they have. And I'm a big Julio Rodriguez fan. Like, I don't know if I would have said that before, but just watching him play, he's probably easily one of the best young stars in the game and is dynamic, can do it all. I said it the other day, baseball's in good hands with the young guys coming up because they are absolutely dynamic and certainly much more athletic overall than I think we are used to seeing over the years in baseball, which with the new brand of the game, I think it's going to be really fun to watch over these next 10 years.
It's funny you mentioned that. Last night was one of the few opportunities viewers like us on the East Coast got to see Shohei Ohtani.
You mean future Brave?
Future Brave Shohei Ohtani. Yes. Outside of, like SportsCenter highlights at 11:30 at night while their game is still ongoing. And, if you knew nothing about Shohei Ohtani before that game and you just based it off what you saw last night where he struck out, you'd be like, what's so special about this guy? Now, unfortunately, he did not get to pitch because of the blister on his hand, but he only had the one at bat in the game and got struck out early on in the going. But it's so funny that, this is baseball's superstar, and last night was one of the few times the entire nation actually got to see him play.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm actually looking forward to watching him play the Braves.
For or against? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, both. I think they play in a few weeks in Atlanta, but it's not a weekend game because I looked into trying to go to that. But yeah, I watched him play in the World Baseball Classic. That was a little bit better showcase of what he can do. I did not see his AB yesterday, but still, freak talent, man.
Absolutely. And cool thing, Atlanta potentially maybe getting the All-Star game in 2025. We know what happened in 21 with it getting taken away and sent to Colorado, and apparently, hopefully, they'll be riding that in 2025, and we get a proper All-Star game in Atlanta.
That'd be sweet, man. Maybe we can get some tickets through the show here.
Ooh.
Maybe give some away as well.
GamecockCentral.com presents the MLB All-Star game.
Hey,
doable.
Show us the money.
I'm sure that doesn't cost much at all to be the presenting sponsor.
Well, I think T-Mobile has bought out every single advertising spot for Major League Baseball.
It was the T-Mobile Home Run Derby, T-Mobile All-Star Game. Was that
by T-Mobile?
Is the stadium sponsored by T-Mobile out there? Did I get that right?
I'm not going to say because I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Maybe that's also the case. But yes,
might as well be
a very large T-Mobile presence at the All-Star. It's really All-Star. They say All-Star Week. It's a couple of days. It's All-Star
2 days.
Weekend. They have the celebrity softball game on Sunday or whatever, and then 2 days festivities, and now everybody gets a day off. And are the ESPYs today or tomorrow? Not that I'm going to watch, but
I think they're today, but I couldn't care less.
I couldn't either. I don't watch awards. I don't watch any award shows, but I could care less about the ESPYs.
Well, and speaking of Shohei Ohtani, our guy Jack Veltri, great intern at Gamecock Central, funny tweet. Will McGillis got picked up by the Angels.
Yes, he did.
And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But he said that Mike Trout and Shohei now have some competition for the best player on the team.
Definitely.
Obviously a little tongue-in-cheek, but good for Will McGillis. Weird that he did not get picked, to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get the
So
the draft is weird because we have this. The other thing, here's my other old man on cloud thing. The trend of teams and like when they get bored in like the 17th to 20th round, and they're like, let's just take this quarterback instead of like really good college baseball players is just weird to me.
So Colin and I talked about that in the 9 o'clock hour because he had a nice little mini rant on Twitter about that because, yes, that is a trend in the draft that the Dodgers with the, I think, 610th pick took DJU, former Clemson quarterback. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce his name because I always mess it up. DJU, you know who I'm talking
Chris
about.
Chris practices that one in the mirror.
Yeah.
Very used to.
Former Clemson quarterback, now with Oregon State. Who knows the last time he picked up a baseball bat or a baseball, but they're like, if you're athletic to play quarterback in Division I football, you might be a decent baseball player. Well, why not? Let's see what happens.
Well, and the guy, Bruce Feldman tweeted something out from The Athletic after that happened because he had just done a profile on DJ Uiagalelei, who's now at Oregon State playing football, and he did an offseason just kind of reset, and here's what's going on. It was a good story. And DJ told him at that point, basically, I'm not interested in trying baseball again.
Yeah.
So you have a guy who's literally like, I'm done, and they're instead of taking Will McGillis or somebody else, they're just like, let's take a stab at this guy. Yeah. Let's draft him.
Maybe he'll change his mind.
Yeah.
How much of that is them just sort of, because I know, and I'm not an expert on this by any means, but I know you kind of have that bonus pool money and what you spend one place or what you don't spend one place can be used elsewhere. All of their picks are not created equal. So sure. I think there are sort of some throwaway picks in there. And if you're like saying athleticism is our thing, I mean, surely they didn't pick it purely. The Dodgers don't need headlines. Like, I don't think it's purely an attention grabbing pick. I could be wrong, but somebody somewhere said, hey, this guy is super talented. This guy has some ability. And sometimes those late picks are actually made knowing, hey, this guy's not signing with us, but it is a relationship builder for the future. And I think for DJU, maybe you're looking at it and saying, what we saw at Clemson does not scream NFL quarterback. What's going to happen when he's done with the college game? If you're the Dodgers, you have built that relationship and started to maybe gather information to maybe take a flyer on this guy later on. So I don't think that this was completely just, we're just throwing away a pick for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, no, they're not just doing it for the lulz. There's some kind of rhyme or reason behind it. And outside of DJU just playing lights out at Oregon State, I don't think he's got too much for a career at the next level, at least at this point in time. So yeah, that at least gives him an option when his college days are done. Like, maybe I can't try this baseball thing again.
Yeah, so we'll see.
We'll hit on some recruiting coming up next. You are listening to the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs, 107.5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, 107.5 The Game.
Guys, Chris walked into the studio today with a huge grin on his face, bigger than even usual. And he said, Wes, I had an early lunch. And Chris, why don't you tell everybody what you partaked in this morning?
The new limited time offering from our friends at Firehouse Subs. It was the pepperoni meatball. It was so good. It was as advertised. You know, usually if you want the meatball pepperoni sub, you order the meatball and you just add pepperoni. This one's a little bit different. The bread, the seasoning, the cheese, little bit different of a flavor. It's awesome. Pepperoni meatball subs, a new limited time offer. I got it right over there down the street from the studio, 633 Main Street. But there's 14 Midlands Firehouse Subs locations where you can get the new limited time meatball pepperoni sub. It's hot, melty, toasty. It's absolutely outstanding. I was hungry. Early lunch right before we got in here to the studio. And here's the other cool thing, Wes. If you download the Firehouse Subs app, you can get it at participating locations. Main Street's one of them. $6 for a medium. Even better than the sub of the day price. That's $7.99 for a small, or for a medium, $5.99 for a small. New York Steamer is the sub of the day if you want it. If you want to try something different, the meatball pepperoni, $6 when you order in the app only. You can get that price, and you can earn rewards towards future Firehouse Subs purchases.
Significant recruitments on the horizon. We'll hit on those next. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs on 107.5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, founded by firemen, with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head on your home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
And welcome back into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs here on 107.5 The Game. Tyler, West, and Chris along with you. As we approach the end of the month of July, closer and closer to the start of football season, a couple of big recruit announcements on the horizon. Start off with one set to take place tomorrow. Keelan Adams, 4-star wide receiver out of Virginia, again set to make his announcement tomorrow.
We need the sad trombone sound effect here, I think, for South Carolina fans. Chris, I think very safe to say at this point, trending heavily Virginia Tech, and one I think was trending heavily South Carolina at one point, and actually for a while appeared to be trending that way. Virginia Tech gets an official visit. You talked about it in your insider report. Kind of interesting that Alabama gets an OV. From the reporting on the Alabama side, they were willing to take this kid. It wasn't just sometimes outside looking in, you're like, okay, is this guy a take for Alabama? Because they recruit so many highly recruited guys. At least at the time, it seemed like he was a take for them. But Virginia Tech, as of right now, appears likely to be the pick tomorrow. And but also one I think we may be continually tracking moving forward.
Yeah, this one's been really interesting to follow, and I know you went through some of this the other day, Wes, but as a reset, Adams has had a Carolina offer for quite a while, but we weren't really tracking him, even into the spring. And then in May, he takes a visit to Columbia. It's his very first visit. There's a tie-in with his trainer, knowing Juice Wells. So he heads up to Columbia, takes a visit, and now all of a sudden there's a lot of mutual interest. Then he's back June 2nd, which happened to be South Carolina's first camp day, prospect camp day of the summer. Works out with Dante Reno, works out with Mazio Bennett, hangs out after a while for an unofficial visit. And things looked really, really good at that point for the Gamecocks. We knew even then that he was probably going to go take that Bama official visit, but it was kind of I don't know, it sounds weird to say, but that was more of a box checker just to, take a visit to Bama. Didn't look like he was, at one point, Keelan Adams had told me personally, I'm probably not going to take any official visits during the summer because of my parents' work schedules, I suppose. But then lo and behold, he takes the Bama one, and then he ends up taking one to Virginia Tech that came a little bit more out of nowhere, and they've made him a huge priority as well, and things have kind of shifted as of late. So the reason, guys, that I think we'll continue to track this one is Adams does have an official visit to USC in his pocket if he wants to use it. You would think that there's a good chance the staff stays in contact here, and you just kind of see what happens. The plan originally, even when South Carolina was in a better position, was for him to come in this season for an official. So don't expect it to go USC's way, but it could end up being one that we continue to track. There's another, though, good receiver who's supposed to announce later this month in Jonathan Paylor out of North Carolina that we feel like South Carolina is still in a good position for. So if you can land Paylor, even if you miss on Adams at this time, if you land Paylor, if you land Mazio Bennett, who you've already got in your class, you feel pretty good about those two, but you definitely need to add another piece or two. I think the transfer portal is going to be a place to watch after this season to bring in somebody or more than somebody, maybe one or two guys that have some seasoning and some production and some experience at the college level.
Jumping over into next week on Monday, Malcolm Ziegler, the 4-star safety prospect out of North Carolina, set to make his announcement as well. And it looks like it is North Carolina and South Carolina that are at the top of his list at this point in time.
Yeah, the two schools that are obviously going to battle to start the season on the football field, battling and recruiting right now. This one's been interesting, too. I hate to keep using that word, but it was kind of like South Carolina gets him in on the official visit, And there's a lot of good feelings about South Carolina. Then he takes a Notre Dame official visit. You read the Notre Dame reporting. There are a lot of good feelings there. And maybe Notre Dame takes the lead. Then UNC sort of gets that last one, and UNC feels good. Chris, I won't steal your thunder, man, but I think safe to say this is a guy we're tracking much closer as a possible, hey, does Gamecock Central need to go cover this announcement? Then maybe we probably were, I would say, like even a week ago, because I, at least personally, I hadn't written him off, so to speak, but it just felt, you'd cover recruiting long enough. Obviously, the information leads you where to go. But as good as Notre Dame felt, and then as good as North Carolina felt after those OVs, it kind of just felt to me like it probably was not going to be South Carolina. My pick would have been UNC. At this point, I've heard it's probably not going to be Notre Dame. So that gets you down to the two Carolinas.
Yeah, it kind of shifted. It seems like all three of those schools probably took a turn at the top, just based on the visits, which happens sometimes. Sometimes you'll get guys who take an official visit to a school and they really enjoy it, but that school you just took one to is not the leader. That happened with Nasir Johnson, the defensive tackle, right after the South Carolina visit. He really liked it, but Florida was still the leader, and ultimately he committed there very, very soon thereafter. Sometimes you got to battle, just it's all even on a guy until the end. Sometimes you can capture a lead and see where it goes. So I think South Carolina was probably in a good spot with Ziegler after the official earlier this summer, but then you looked at it and said, okay, well, he's got the Notre Dame visit looming. He's got the UNC visit looming. Let's see what happens. Both those schools, after their respective visits, seem to be in a good spot. So what's probably happened here is just kind of evened out. Like the visits have worn off, so to speak. He's kind of taken a look at it. As Wes said, Notre Dame not expected to be the pick. Don't know that South Carolina will be, but what the information that we do have, it kind of leads me to believe that this is one we need to be paying at least a decent amount of attention to leading up to that. And this is a really good prospect. South Carolina's got 3 DBs in this class. You've got 2 safeties in Kelvin Hunter, David Busey. You've got Braden Lee at corner. This would finish out your safety recruiting, I would think, in this class. Ziegler's a guy on 3, Charles Power, who we really like here. He's the highest in the country on him. He's an outlier in terms of how high he's got him ranked. He's got him as a top 40 prospect. I think he's number 39 in the country. Ziegler's got great size, long arms. He can run, got good film. So it would be an excellent pickup if they can make it happen.
Yeah, I was actually throwing the film back on while we were talking about him. I'm a big fan of this dude, man. And I am, as far as the information goes, anytime South Carolina's battling with Mac Brown, from South Carolina perspective, I think you got to be a little bit just wary of them. Like it's a tough victory to go in there and steal a guy they want. This kid's worth the battle, though. Look, I think the rest. I was about to say the rest of the recruiting industry has completely missed the boat on Malcolm Ziegler. But I'm looking. So for those who don't know, if you go on 3 and go to a profile, one of the absolute best things on 3 does is you can get a comparison of the ranking for all 4 of the major sites out there. 24/7, ESPN, and Rivals all list him as a 3-star guy. But I'm looking now, Chris, 24/7, they must have just bumped him up recently, because 24/7 Sports, now we see this a lot too, sort of people catching up to what he is doing. They have him as the number 192 prospect in the country, number 17 safety. On 3, number 39 overall prospect, like Chris said, number 2 safety. So, this is a blue-chip guy. I watch him on film. He's a safety because he's got safety size and that frame, listed at 6'2", 198, 6'1 1.5 some places. But watching him on film, Tyler, he's got athleticism. I think he's a potential cornerback. I think he's one of those guys that you look at and you say he can definitely play safety, but potentially could play corner. And if this is a little bit outside the box, but if South Carolina fans want a comparison, when I turn on his film, he weirdly athletically reminds me a little bit of Shaq Rowland. And Shaq was obviously a wide receiver for South Carolina. And, so I don't know that Malcolm necessarily has the receiver skill set that Shaq did, but just watching them move, the movement ability, just the smoothness in which he operates, very just effortless speed. His film says he's a 4.38 guy. Just very, very impressive athlete, and would probably be an early impact guy in the secondary, regardless of what school he picks.
And again, Ziegler set to announce coming up on Monday, July the 17th. Got one more guy to hit on the other side, as well as talk a little bit about the recruiting rankings and the latest look at those. That's coming up next on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs on 107.5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. 107.5 The Game.
Hey guys, once again, want to tell you about our friends at Gold Line Framing in West Columbia. If you got that person in your life that is just very, very difficult, we all have them, to find a gift for, then let's think outside the box a little bit. Why don't you take their favorite print? Maybe they got a jersey of their favorite player. Maybe there's even some artwork. Maybe your wife has a favorite piece of art that you can take to the next level. And you can do that by getting Gold Line Framing to custom frame it for you. They're going to take care of any and all of your custom framing needs. That could be a diploma. That could be, like I said, original artwork, canvases, jerseys, flags. They've been in business for over 20 years, so they can handle any and all this for you. Head on over to 511 12th Street, West Columbia. In store, they have an art gallery, home decor, furniture, and gift items all right there for you to check out in person. You can give them a call, 803-739-1337. They are open today because they're open Tuesday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., and then Saturday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Give them a follow on Instagram at Goldline Framing SC. Again, that's my friend Kendall Walsh and manager Joni James over at Goldline Framing in West Columbia.
More recruiting next. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour.
It's a lifetime offer. That's sweetdeals.com.
107.5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Presented by Firehouse Subs. Founded by firemen with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head. On your home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game.
Even better than I was the last time, baby. Ooh, 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 ooh.
We back.
I'm good.
And welcome back into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. Here on 107.5 Game, Tyler West and Chris along with you. Want to let you know, coming up tonight at 6 o'clock here on 107.5 The Game, it is the Tommy Moody Show. Tommy will take an in-depth look at Monument Park in Yankee Stadium, its beginning, its history, and the first dozen players and managers to be enshrined there, with some great audio clips of Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Mickey Mantle, Joe DiMaggio, and several others. So certainly be sure to tune in for that again coming up tonight at 6 o'clock. As we continue our conversation in regards to recruiting, there's one more recruit that we didn't have time to hit on in that last segment there. And we don't have an official commitment date for him yet, but we're anticipating it's going to be sometime soon, and that's consensus 4-star offensive tackle Liam Andrews out of Massachusetts.
Yeah, Liam. Go ahead, Wes. We had the same thought.
We were about to say the same thing. Yeah. So Liam listed as an offensive lineman on, I think, certainly most of the recruiting sites. Going to be a defensive tackle if he chooses South Carolina, and for that matter, Penn State as well. He prefers defensive line. So we've seen basically all the teams either shift to recruiting him on defensive line, or he's eliminated the schools that aren't, because basically the schools that it is down to, which I think is maybe you throw Wisconsin in there as well. He took an official visit there, but seems like Penn State, seems like South Carolina. This one we've tracked for a while. Chris, I tend to think you still maybe give a slight edge to Penn State. At the same time, he has played it pretty close to the vest as far as what his plans are ultimately. And he's a guy I maybe would have thought would already be committed somewhere by now, which could potentially be a sign he's kind of still working through it or struggling, or maybe not. I don't know. You never really know. I always tell fans, don't read too much into anything when it comes to recruiting.
Yeah, one of the best two-way players in the country. I mean, if he did play offensive line, he's a really good prospect there. If he does play tackle, and certainly he plays tackle in high school, he's got good film on both sides of the ball. He has a high upside there, too. And so My understanding, Penn State and South Carolina both think that he's a potential early impact guy in two of the best conferences in the country, Big Ten, the SEC. South Carolina would love to add him to this class. And this has been a question. I feel like some people are almost forgetting about this guy, maybe just because if you're looking through some of the targets, you see the name Liam Andrews and you see offensive line in the rankings. Maybe you don't make that connection, but this is a D tackle all the way for Carolina. And so we have figured, Wes, that this is going to be a smaller defensive tackle class overall for South Carolina. 1 to 2 guys, probably. We expect 2025 will be bigger in terms of the number. But we've gotten this question a lot lately. Who are the guys? Who are the targets? Well, this is one of them. It's a major one. So I think we need to see what happens with Liam Andrews first before we can kind of reset the board with who we're talking about. But another one where highly ranked everywhere. This is a consensus 4-star prospect. He's 85th nationally according to the On3 industry ranking, which is a weighted average of all 4 services. On3, again, highest in the industry on Liam Andrews, number 61 nationally as a prospect. So the sense that I get, to go back to the actual recruitment here, the answer that I've gotten in checking with some sources, including ones familiar with Penn State, nobody really knows. And we know that Liam Andrews is probably going to announce this month. That's what he told me after his South Carolina official visit. He came in on a weekend in which he was the only official visitor for South Carolina. He wasn't on one of the big 3 weekends. Kind of quietly, just got there. So this is someone that's emerged a little bit later. Pete Limbo's been involved. Travian Robertson's been involved. And they do have a shot, but it's kind of hard to get a sense other than probably either Penn State or South Carolina which way this one may go. He'll be a big pickup.
And we'll certainly keep an eye on that when he does decide to announce his commitment. We'll come back and wrap up today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, taking a look at the latest recruiting rankings. That's coming up next on 107.5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. 107.5 The Game.
All across the country, drivers like yourself are reaping the rewards of safer driving with the updated Drive Safe and Save app from State Farm. If it sounds appealing to you to drive safer and to be able to save on your insurance bill, call Amy Mason Cup State Farm and ask her about the Drive Safe and Save app. She can help you switch and save on your car insurance, but also can point you towards the Drive Safe and Save app. You can download it and get access to dynamic new features like interactive maps and driving tips that make the pursuit of your discount even easier. You can earn up to 30% savings. Stop by your local State Farm agent's office, and Amy Mason Cup will be glad to help you get set up with the Drive Safe and Save app. When my family was looking to switch and save on our insurance, we called Amy. She took care of the rest. Her team's awesome. They can help you with all sorts of policies, whether it's auto, but also home, business, boat, renters, life, and so much more, whatever your needs are. She and the State Farm team can give you a personalized quote to have you covered, to help you switch, to help you save. Her office, 612 St. Andrews Road, Suite 4 in Columbia. That's just off the St. Andrews exit, I-26. AmyMasonCup.com is the website, AmyMasonCupp.com, or 803-772-5554. Again, that's Amy Mason Cup State Farm, 803-772-5554. AmyMasonCupp.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
The latest team rankings, what do they look like? We'll talk about it next. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, 107.5 The Game.
Mix a little sports analysis, pop culture, and great interviews, and you've got the Rich Eisen Show podcast.
Whenever I drive separately with Susie, you always have to go first. So sure enough, I pull into the garage. She's not even here yet, which allows me now the opportunity to stand there, just holding the door open, like the gentleman that I am. And I snapped a photograph of Susie's reaction, and there it is. How did you get here?
The Rich Eisen Show podcast, wherever you listen.
Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. This is 107.5 The Game. A great selection of new Chevys is available now at Herndon Chevrolet. The lot is packed with inventory and more is on the way. So shop your hometown Chevy dealer today. Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile. It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Presented by Firehouse Subs. Founded by firemen with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head on your home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game.
It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on 107.5 The Game. Tyler West and Chris along with you for a few more minutes before turning things over to Terry for the halftime show. Real quick, want to remind you about the 107.5 The Game Craft Beer Passport. Just head on over to 1075thegame.com and click on the Sweet Deals tab. You can purchase yourself a craft beer passport for just $99. It is a $285 value. Good at over 15 locations around the Midlands. Again, all yours for just $99 on 1075thegame.com under the Sweet Deals tab. As I mentioned before the break, they're going to take a look at the latest industry team recruiting rankings for 2024. In South Carolina currently finds themselves positioned at number 15, just behind Florida State and just in front of two teams getting set to join the SEC in Oklahoma and Texas.
Yeah, so among the industry recruiting rankings, for those who don't know, you got On3, 24/7, ESPN Rivals, all go into those kind of that average. It's a weighted average is the best way to say it. But, Chris, there's been a lot of talk online about the latest On3 rankings, the On 300. And I do think, first of all, there's a lot of confusion a lot of times because the On3 rankings are sort of the independent rankings by the On3 staff. On3 industry recruiting rankings is, again, kind of that weighted average of all the different companies. Well, it was kind of crazy to me how upset two fan bases got over the change in a ranking for a guy who's not committed to either school. And we've seen this discussed a ton on Twitter, seen it discussed a ton on Gamecock Central message boards. Chris, the change of Dylan Stewart from number 1 in the country to what? Number
9.
9.
Huge fall. I was tongue in cheek.
I feel like the danger of recruiting rankings is, and especially you have to put out recruiting rankings so early now. And you do have to, because if you don't, someone else will. And people will be asking. And the only, this sounds harsh, but the only way people read articles and will click and will become invested in a guy is if they know how much they're supposed to care about where they're going to pick.
Mm-hmm.
Sad reality.
Yep.
That's the truth, though. So if I say, hey, guys, class 2025, defensive lineman Amari Adams is going to visit South Carolina, and I posted that, let's say, months ago, everybody might be like, what? If I say, hey, top prospect in the state of South Carolina, 4-star defensive lineman Amari Adams, probably going to remain the number 1 prospect in the state of South Carolina throughout the entire process because I don't see anybody passing him personally. People say, oh, I need to read about this guy. I need to talk about this guy. We need to get this guy. Well, the problem with doing them so early is that Dylan Stewart is number 10 in the country, according to On3. According to 24/7, he's 13. According to ESPN, he's 15. According to Rivals, he's 17. So him being the 10th player in the entire country,
in the world,
for his class is seen as a slight. Mm-hmm. He's a 5-star prospect, and he's still. And we don't have to defend On3, and like this is not we don't actually work for On3. We work for Gamecock Central. Gamecock Central is, of course, connected with On3. We're on that network. It's been wild just to see how, and we see this all the time. If he would have been 17 in the country a couple of months ago and then was moved up to number 10, this would be a big positive headline, I feel like. However, lots of people are upset over Stewart dropping back.
You can't go any higher than 1. So unless you're keeping a guy at 1, basically what you're saying is if a guy's drops ever at all from whatever spot he previously was at, maybe there's some conspiracy. There's so many reasons that there's not like a rankings conspiracy. I know it's fun. Some people say it tongue-in-cheek. It is funny, right? Like there's a social media aspect of it of if a guy drops in the rankings. Must be because he's committed to South Carolina, or must be because he's going to commit to South Carolina. But it can't be that they're biased towards Ohio State and South Carolina at the same time. Florida fans right now are furious about some of their rankings, even though their quarterback commitment moved up to a 5-star, right? They're furious about some of them. When you do rankings, it's a thankless business. I wouldn't want to do it. I'm glad we don't have to do it.
I would never do it.
But it's a thankless task, and you just rank them. You just rank them where you think they are. It would be a bad business decision for On 3 to say, South Carolina commit, we're going to move that guy down. And there's numerous examples of guys moving up after they're committed to South Carolina or leans. I mean, last year, Lenora Sellers, Jalen Kilgore, Bakari Swing, these are guys that On 3 was highest on throughout the process and consistently moved them up and ranked them the highest in the country. But that's not quite as fun to talk about, I suppose.
Well, and you have, so go back, Nick Ebenworry, Charles Power, who does the rankings for On 3, was, standing on the highest building, yelling to anyone who would listen about how good of a prospect he thought Ebenworry was. Same thing for Sellers. He's been willing to go out on a limb, whether it's having a guy lower than anyone else or higher. He currently has Josiah Thompson, 18 overall in the entire country, which is higher than anybody else. He has Wendell Gregory, number 100 in the country, number 10th linebacker in the country. And so he's been willing to put South Carolina guys higher than anybody else. Matthew Fuller, who was, a kind of average 3-star when he first committed to South Carolina, is now a 4-star prospect by On 3. He just moved up, got that designation. 282 in the country, number 23 running back, so that puts him firmly in the On 300. And another guy I'm kind of keeping an eye on, Chris, that I think has an opportunity to move up would be Fred Johnson. Mm-hmm. Has a chance to move up to 4 stars, I should say, because he made a small bump from an 88 rating to an 89 rating on 3 during the latest update. And for those who don't really follow it closely, 89 is the lowest 3-star before you bump into that 4-star threshold. So he's an 89 rating. 24/7 actually already has him as a 4-star. As far as the industry recruiting ranking goes, he's being drugged down a little bit by his rivals ranking, which is a low 3-star, but he's one I think has some upward mobility here.
All right, that'll do it for today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. We'll be back in tomorrow for the Thursday edition. Halftime show with Jay and Terry, or with just Terry, coming up next here on 107.5 The Game.
So, we've got a number 1 deluxe meal. Is there anything else I can get you?
Yeah, I'd also like a good night's sleep.
Excuse me, sir?
The I didn't struggle all night with my uncomfortable CPAP mask, or something like my wife didn't kick me out to sleep on the couch because of my constant tossing and turning.
Sir, we don't have anything like that here. I think what you're looking for is Inspire. It's an implant that works inside your body to treat sleep apnea without a CPAP. That way you can breathe normally and rest more soundly.
Come on! Oh, he sounds hangry. Inspire is the only FDA-approved sleep apnea treatment of its kind. It's helping tens of thousands of people finally get restful sleep. To learn more, visit InspireSleep.com. That's InspireSleep.com. Inspire, sleep apnea innovation. Inspire is not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you, and review important safety information at InspireSleep.com.